Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and in today's video we're going to be doing another episode of the Friday Market Update. This is a series that we do every single Friday here on the channel where we do some technical analysis on the cryptocurrency markets. We do some TA on some of the major cryptocurrencies, the major players here in the cryptocurrency space, and I also do some technical analysis on different cryptocurrencies that you guys recommend and suggest in the comments section down below. So make sure you tell me what you would like to see in next week's video. In this series we also cover some news that's been affecting the price action of the market and the market in general in the last week. And in today's video, we're going to be covering some news relating to EOS's Mainnet Launch. We've been covering the entire saga of the EOS Mainnet Launch here on the channel, so it would be a disservice to you guys for me not to cover the conclusion of it, as EOS's Mainnet has actually gone live at this point. We're also going to be covering a statement made by an SEC official as to whether or not Ethereum is a security, which is going to have major ramifications on the way Ethereum is viewed by investors, especially outside of cryptocurrency, in the coming months and years. And we're also going to be covering some funny news about a fellow relating to one of the cryptocurrencies, one of the people that was working on one of the cryptocurrencies you guys might be familiar with, stealing a tank. So yeah, you guys are going to want to stick around for that. That's a pretty funny article. It doesn't have a lot to do with price action, so that'll be at the end of the video. But guys, if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button, because we do cryptocurrency videos every single day here on the channel. So let's get right into it. Bitcoin is currently hovering around $6,600, up from its weekly low of around $6,100. Bitcoin continued to fall in this week. It began its descent last week, but it continued to fall a lot in the last week. A couple days ago, the day before yesterday, Bitcoin actually did find its bottom at $6,100, and with it, the rest of the market did as well. As we can see here on the 7-day price graphs, pretty much every single cryptocurrency, especially the top 10, completely lined up, and every single one of these price graphs looks almost identical. We've talked about this on the channel before. That typically signals either the top or the bottom of the market. When the markets actually line up like that, you typically see that around the top and the bottom of the market. So that is something to keep in mind. Pretty much the entire market, the price graphs are looking very, very similar. When the market's kind of in between the top and the bottom, these charts they might be all over the place, but right now they are kind of lining up, and that also kind of goes along with my thesis that we are actually at the bottom of this market. But we'll be talking about that in the technical analysis portion. Bitcoin is still over $100 billion market capitalization. I haven't done the math, but Bitcoin would have to fall to like $5,800, $5,700 for us to go below that. So that is another important level of support that we have, other than just $6,000. It's only up about 1% in the last 24 hours, but it's doing better than it was a couple days ago. I think we can all agree on that. Cryptocurrency's market capitalization is hovering around $285 billion. We did fall through the level that was $300 billion that we were previously staying above, but we are still above the lows back here in the early April bottoming out period when Bitcoin fell to $6,500. So we are still above that. That is good to see. If we move over here to the Bitcoin dominance, we've talked about this on the channel quite a lot, where the Bitcoin dominance, we kind of use this as a measurement for actual risk aversion in the market. When Bitcoin's market dominance is going up, that normally signals that risk aversion in the market is going up, and there's less people investing in altcoins. Obviously, that's what Bitcoin dominance measures. And when there's less investment in the altcoins, you can correlate that. This isn't necessarily causal, but you can correlate that with people being less willing to risk their investments in more risky positions, and they're trading out of their altcoins back into Bitcoin, obviously, because that's what Bitcoin dominance actually measures. And that isn't necessarily a good thing for the market, because there's a lot more room to grow in the altcoins. Many of these altcoins are nowhere near their full potential. Bitcoin is much closer to it. So these altcoins can grow a lot faster, which can bring about an altcoin cycle, as Data Dash calls it, and an actual bull run. So that is something to keep in mind, guys. It did bounce off of about 40.5% right here just a couple days ago when Bitcoin bottomed out, but now it's starting to come back down. We would like to see that trend down for the reasons I laid out just a second ago. But let's get into the technical analysis portion of the video. Now guys, I'm not going to cover the TA on Bitcoin specifically too much in today's video, because I think the last 4 videos that we've done here on the channel were about Bitcoin technical analysis. If you want to see one of them, I highly recommend it. Click up here in the top right, and one will show up. So we're going to be a little brief on Bitcoin, but we will do some technical analysis on many other cryptocurrencies in the next couple of minutes. But like I said, let's get into Bitcoin. Bitcoin, there are 2 different ways that you can talk about the actual pattern that it's in right now. You can call this a flat bottom consolidation pattern or a descending triangle pattern, and then you can also call this a descending consolidation pattern if you use this downtrend right here. I prefer to call this a triple bottom because Bitcoin does have an actual very strong level of support, this little area of support rather, in between $6,000 and $6,500. Now it is in this level, and we would like to see it break out, so it needs to stay above this triple bottom, and it needs to stay above $6,000, and it looks like it's going to do that. Of course, we ran to $10,000, we've fallen back to $6,000, so we've had a very large retracement, and that is reflected in the RSI. Bitcoin has become oversold on the RSI about 2 days ago when it bottomed out around $6,100. If we come in here to let's do the 30-minute chart, then we'll see where that happened. We bottomed out at almost exactly $6,100. So this area that we're in right now, and especially the area a few $100s below us, is very well defended by the bulls. If we do somehow manage to break below $6,000, that will be a definitive breakout of this descending triangle pattern and the descending consolidation pattern that some people are calling it if you draw that trend line right there. That'll be definitely a definitive breakout of that pattern, and we'll probably see Bitcoin fall to like $5,000 where we have resistance down here at this previous top, or in between that around $5,000 to $5,500 where we see a bottom back over here. But $5,000 is a big even, so we would probably see Bitcoin retrace to $5,000 with the actual overall market sentiment and how much Bitcoin has already fallen, and the fact that we continue to see more and more bullish news move into the market. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think we've seen the bottom, at least for temporary. What I'm expecting Bitcoin is going to do in the next couple of days and weeks is that it's actually going to either come back down here and set another bottom at $6,000 and actually completely flush out, or it's going to start a little run up here to this downtrend and test resistance here. If we can break bullish out of this, then we're looking for Bitcoin to go back above $10,000 and back up here somewhere. And if we do see it break $10,000, then we've set a higher high, and that could signal a coming bull run. We're going to be talking about that as the market progresses, though. Like I said, that's all we're going to cover on Bitcoin for today. If you're interested in more Bitcoin technical analysis, I do recommend watching some of the other videos we've done here on the channel. But right now, we're going to move on to Ethereum. Now, Ethereum, you guys probably, if you guys saw the first video that we did, the first Friday market update video, last week's market update video, I believe I talked about this consolidation pattern that Ethereum over USD and Ethereum over BTC was in, and it was looking like Ethereum could potentially get support here and actually break bullish out of this. But unfortunately, the entire market crashed. Bitcoin fell, and that obviously resulted in Ethereum crashing. So we broke bearish out of this consolidation pattern. But actually, you can redraw the consolidation pattern and say that it's still in it. So you can cheat the market a little bit sometimes and actually make it do whatever you want. But I do still consider this a consolidation pattern, as we have gotten support down here on 30 on the RSI again. So we're going to see if it breaks bullish out of this. Now, another key reason that it broke bearish out of this is because Ethereum broke bearish out of its consolidation pattern on the Ethereum over BTC chart. I've talked about this before, guys. On some of the market leaders, especially like the top 5, a lot of people trade those major cryptocurrencies over US dollars, and they also trade them over Bitcoin. So it is important to look at both charts on some of the larger cryptocurrencies. But here, Ethereum did break bearish out of its consolidation pattern here that closes in much sooner than Ethereum over US dollars did. It broke bearish out of that. But in the same light as on Ethereum over USD, you can actually redraw this and say that it's still in a consolidation pattern. If you draw it something like this, then Ethereum is probably going to see another breakout of this consolidation pattern in the next couple of days. So because of that, I am looking for some major movement in Ethereum in the next couple of days, which might tie in and correlate with the SEC's talk about whether or not Ethereum is a security. So far, that hasn't had a major impact on the Ethereum market, though. Let's move on to XR. Well, actually, one more thing on the Ethereum market. I do want to cover the actual support levels. For Ethereum, Ethereum does have some very strong support down here around $5,600. So if we do break bearish out of this, then we do have some pretty strong support down here. We've gotten support before, which was previous resistance. Previous resistance can become new support and vice versa. So I do expect that this will hold if we do break out of this. I'm not even sure we'll come all the way back down here. Same thing with Ethereum. It does have some very strong support in between $380 and $400 because of recent support and former resistance back over here in its ascending triangle in the second half of 2017. Moving on to XRP, we're going to be a little brief on XRP. There's not a lot to cover, but XRP has been just kind of has been trading very sideways here. We haven't seen a lot of movement. It hasn't been very volatile. If we get the Bollinger Bands in here, let's get the Bollinger Bands in here and actually see what those are showing. I don't know if I've ever talked about the Bollinger Bands on the channel, but basically I'm not going to get into it right now, so I'll tell you basically what this means. When a market is getting up close to this outside band right here, that typically means that the market is moving too quickly, and when these bands get narrower, that typically means that the volatility in the market is going down. So we would like to see Ethereum break out of this consolidation pattern and also get above these and get up here around these levels on the Bollinger Bands. Let's get rid of that. And also, it is in a triangle pattern here. It is in a consolidation pattern here. We can see this pretty clearly. This is a pretty clear consolidation pattern right here. We have some tops up here, the downtrend, and the uptrend right over here with the bottom, and actually previous resistance. So that is something to look out for. It has been getting very tight, I would say, probably because of this actual consolidation pattern. Whether or not it breaks bullish or bearish out of this, we're not sure. I can't call that, obviously, but I do think it will probably break bullish out of this. If it does break bearish, the next important level is this level down here around 6,700, 6,800 Satoshis. I believe I just closed my RSI, so let me get that back up. Relative Strength Index, that's pretty important. No, I didn't. I just hit it. That's right. So if it does fall down here to this level around $6,700, it's probably going to get at least close to oversold on RSI. It'd probably get down here around 35 to 40 on the RSI, so that probably would hold if we fall down here. Moving on to Litecoin over USD. Litecoin did break a very important level that we've talked about before on the channel, of 110, 109 US dollars to be more exact. It got support on this level many times. We set a double bottom back over here in the early February lows. We also set another double bottom back over here in the early April lows, and unfortunately we weren't able to hold it this time, and it did break bearish out of this descending triangle pattern that I've talked about in previous videos. We did get support a little bit lower than that, around $90. We did get support down there, partially indicated by the fact that the RSI did fall to around 27 down here, as you can see. So it is nice to see that it's probably setting a bottom. Normally when cryptocurrencies push their RSI down below 30, that means that a bottom is going to happen very soon. The same thing with Bitcoin, and I do think a bottom is forming in both of these cryptocurrencies. As it should, these two cryptocurrencies should align quite well because they're basically the same cryptocurrency. Litecoin is basically copy-pasted Bitcoin with some changes. That's pretty much what it is, which is why they correlate so closely. And that's one of the problems that Litecoin has and why I'm not as bullish on it as I used to be, because Litecoin just doesn't have enough to differentiate itself from Bitcoin anymore. It did 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when it was one of the only major altcoins other than Bitcoin. But now there's so many other altcoins that I'm not as bullish on Litecoin, because there's some other cryptocurrencies that deliver similar things to what Litecoin does, and also do it better, frankly, because they use other types of blockchain infrastructure. So we'll be talking about that in later videos, though. Same thing with Litecoin over BTC. It did break bearish out of this descending triangle pattern that we've talked about here, and we did break another important level of support. You could draw this support level down here, a support area right around 1.4 or 1.5 million Satoshis, so you could redraw this, and we did get oversold on the RSI down here. So that is something to look at, but this was obviously a very important level of support, as we got support on it many times here in the last couple of months, so I'm not a big fan of seeing it break through that. NEO over BTC isn't seeing a lot go on. It did break bearish out. It did break bearish through this support level of around 660, 670,000 Satoshis. I was hoping that it would hold this, and we did actually break below it, and we're down here getting support around 6 million Satoshis. It is also oversold on the RSI, so hopefully we can stay above that. But I am not at all a fan of it breaking this level of support. This was a very strong level of support. Clearly not strong enough, and it was a very well-defined level of support. As we can see here, it was almost perfectly defined. This is a perfect level of support. A perfect touch here, a perfect touch here, there, and there, but we did break below it. We want to see it get back above this and just set this as a temporary break below this and try and reestablish this support level, because we would like to see that. One of the problems with NEO right now is it's being overshadowed by EOS, and I'm going to skip EOS's technical analysis and come back to it, because we're going to lead into its news. But part of the problem with NEO is that EOS and NEO are very similar protocol tokens, and they do very similar things. And EOS is getting all the spotlight right now because it's a bigger cryptocurrency by market capitalization, and also because of its mainnet launch news. So that's one of the problems that NEO is facing right now, is that EOS is simply larger and simply has more media coverage. So NEO is being kind of overshadowed, so definitely keep an eye out for that. It is important to look at factors beyond technical analysis when investing in cryptocurrencies, and that most certainly is one of them, because NEO has been trending downwards as EOS has been trending upwards. This could very easily change. Some people think that EOS is built completely on hype right now, it's price action. So that could very well reverse, but that is something to keep in mind. ADA over BTC. ADA is setting a nice little double bottom down here around 2,400 Satoshis. We do have a nice little double bottom down here. We didn't hit all the way down to 30 on the RSI. We did get a hanging man down here. This little pattern right here means that the market opened at around 2,500 Satoshis. We fell all the way down to 2,350 Satoshis and then came back up and closed a little bit higher. These kind of patterns where you see a very long wicks in one direction typically signals the reversal of a market. Normally you see these kinds of patterns at the top of a market, but they can also be seen at the bottom of a market. And Cardano has been trading in this little trading channel in between 2,500, 2,400 really, and 3,000 Satoshis for a while now. If it does break this double bottom, it does also have support down here at 2,000. But the thing about Cardano is it's not really doing a lot as far as price action right now. So hopefully we can at least stay above both of these and get through some resistance that we've set up here recently at 3,000 Satoshis. This is also a big even, and we also do see a lot of trading around it. Resistance over here, support kind of, and then resistance. So that's a level that we're looking to break through on Cardano. BQX, now rebranded as Ethos, its ticker symbol has been rebranded as Ethos, isn't really doing a whole lot. It's trading sideways. We're not hearing a ton of news from the project. They're working on the Universal Wallet, and it is now, I believe they've launched it. And actually, it has gotten a lot of support down here around 27,000 Satoshis. If we can stay above this and they can continue to develop the project, we haven't talked about it lately on the channel, but if they can continue to develop the product and the project, I do see good things in the future for Ethos and BQX. Now let's come back to EOS like we said. EOS is a very strange cryptocurrency. It's one of those that has done remarkably well in this bear market. Has come up out of nowhere, and that's part of the reason that a lot of people think that its price action is mostly built on hype. We've done a ton of TA on this and its inverse head and shoulders pattern, so we're going to cover that a little less. But one thing that it did do, after it broke out of its inverse head and shoulders pattern, it made one bull flag, it made another bull flag, and then a very interesting pattern formed. It made a bull flag, it broke bullish out of the bull flag, came back in, and then broke bullish out of it again. And then it fell through and below the bull flag, which was a very interesting pattern. We fell all the way down here, down to around 150,000 Satoshis. We got support, and after some of this news of the EOS blockchain finally going live, the EOS mainnet finally going live, rather, it has gotten some good price action, and we've been kind of tapering off in the last couple of days. EOS, I think, is going to cool off it's going to cool off a little bit, at least I think so. We've gotten support in between 140 and 150,000 Satoshis, which is good for the future because we have this area of support right here. And then below that, we also have backup support at 130,000 Satoshis, which served as previous resistance. So EOS is looking to be in a very strong position right now. It has a lot of support under it, so I do think that it's going to be doing pretty well, especially if it can deliver in the next couple of months on what EOS is saying it's trying to deliver on. There are a lot of decentralized applications already signing up for or have already been waiting for the EOS mainnet to launch so that they can start implementing on EOS's blockchain. Speaking of which, the EOS mainnet has finally gone live. I'm not going to get into how exactly the mainnet had to launch and why it took so long. You guys can look that up on your own. But one of the reasons that it took so long is because for EOS to actually launch, 15% of the tokens had to be staked for voting of the actual block producers. So that meant that 150 million tokens needed to be staked to actually vote in these block producers and actually initiate the launch of the mainnet. That finally has happened. We've been waiting for a little over a week for that to happen, and it finally has happened. As of press time, over 177 million of all EOS tokens have been staked, successfully validating the EOS.io blockchain. And a lot of people have been talking about why it might have taken so long for this to happen, and a lot of people, including myself, did foresee this taking a while. Luckily, it didn't take as long as it potentially could have. But Tushar Jain here, this being quoted by Cointelegraph, says, I think the reason EOS voting turnout is so low is that you can't vote your tokens from the exchange. And a lot of people put their tokens on an exchange so they wouldn't have to go through the hassle of registering their tokens. Even though it wasn't necessarily so hard, a lot of people did do that, and those tokens on the exchange weren't being staked. Now, the exchange itself could be staking them, but they weren't by default being staked, and the people that actually held them weren't staking them. So that's part of the reason this took so long. But now that this has happened, the EOS blockchain has now actually been activated. So guys, we can finally see the decentralized applications and other smart contracts and other things that want to be built on top of the EOS platform actually be tested, and we can actually see whether EOS can do what it says it's going to do. After a year-long ICO and $4 billion raised by Block 1, we're going to see if EOS can actually deliver on what it says it's going to. So this is going to be very interesting to see. We'll definitely be following this on the channel in the next couple of months to see whether or not it does what it says it's going to do and whether or not it delivers. Now, moving on, we're going to be talking about the SEC. Now, this was not an official statement by the SEC as far as I can tell, but an SEC official pushes back on claims that Ethereum is a security. Ethereum is not a security, at least in the view of U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, Director of Corporate Finance, William Hinman. Speaking at the Yahoo All Market Summit Crypto Finance in San Francisco Thursday, the official told the audience that the agency does not see a lot of value in treating Ether today as a security. So this is important for the long-term potential of Ethereum, because being labeled a security isn't the end of the world. There are plenty of securities that do very well. I mean, look at the stock market. But the fact that it is a security does lead to different ways that it would be regulated, and it not being a security is at least the SEC saying what it is. The SEC has been rather vague on what cryptocurrencies are. Now, we know that Bitcoin is not a security because it's just not based on the way securities are defined by the SEC through the Howey test. But we didn't know for sure whether or not they were going to determine or deem Ethereum as a security. And the same thing with ICOs. ICOs have it even worse. They probably are going to be officially and formally defined as securities. And that has major ramifications for how these will actually be regulated. But the fact that the SEC does seem to have decided, or at least this guy might be going against the chain and he might get fired for this. But assuming the rest of the SEC is on board with his claims, then the SEC is not going to be treating Ethereum as a security. And that's important also because it does bring about more regulatory clarity. We've talked about this on the channel as well. Regulatory uncertainty is part of the reason a lot of people, that especially larger investors and institutional investors, don't want to get into the cryptocurrency market, because news of regulation can have massive ramifications on price action. It can crush price action. We've seen stuff like this in the past in cryptocurrency, and the last thing you want to see is to put a bunch of money in Ethereum and then Ethereum get labeled or start getting regulated in a way that is disadvantageous to Ethereum itself, and then you lose like 15% in 2 hours after that news comes out. So we do want to see this actual regulatory clarity come into the market. I'm not saying that we necessarily want regulation. We do want some, but we do at least need to see the clarity on what these regulators and what these governments actually think about cryptocurrencies, so that we can have some level of clarity, so that more people from outside the market can move in with at least some degree of, well, certainty. Moving on to the last piece of news that I talked about at the beginning of the video is pretty funny. You guys can call me immature if you want for thinking this is funny. I think it's pretty funny. No one got hurt in this. I'll preface, no one got hurt. This will most certainly not be funny if anyone got hurt, but no one got hurt. Z-Classic co-founder steals U.S. Army tank after a series of odd tweets. Oh boy. Joshua Yabbit, who previously worked as a developer for Zencash, and in fact, you can go find him on GitHub. There are actually changes that you can go find that he made, led police on a cross-country chase for 2 hours, covering 60 miles around the state of Virginia. News media outlet Army Times reported on June the 6th. This is rather old news, but this is new to me. I hadn't heard about this until this morning, and I think you guys are I figure you guys would get a kick out of this. The events surrounding the theft, which occurred during a training exercise, are murky. Yabbit reportedly denied being under the influence of drugs, but released various odd tweets in the hours prior. We have his Twitter up here. And as you can see, he posted pictures of himself in the APC. He didn't steal like an M1 or an M2 Abrams or anything. He stole an APC, which is an armored personnel carrier. I don't think this kind of tank has a gun on it, but it very well may. I don't know that much about modern tanks. I know quite a bit about World War II tanks. But I'm not sure if this was armed. No one has been hurt, so he apparently didn't shoot anyone or run anyone over, but he did post pictures of himself in the tank posing, and he posted the same picture twice, the first time with this caption, which I'm not going to read because I don't want YouTube to decide not to monetize me, but this is pretty funny. A lot of people are thinking that this guy was on something. I don't think he was just high on life. I think he was... You guys tell me in the comments what you think he was on. I think he was on something. Maybe he was just crazy, but he was definitely on something. This isn't necessarily cryptocurrency news, but since he was in cryptocurrency, this is something that I thought you guys would be interested in seeing. But that's going to do it for That's going to do it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, definitely consider dropping a like and subscribing. And also, guys, go follow me on Instagram and Twitter. There are links to do so in the description down below at CryptoJebb. On both of them, I highly recommend doing that. Also, guys, if you guys are looking for a new exchange, or if you're just getting into cryptocurrency and want to know what exchange to use, I highly recommend Binance. There's a link to sign up for Binance in the description down below. If you use that link, not only will you be helping to fund this channel, you will also be getting access to an amazing cryptocurrency exchange that is used by a lot of people They have a great cryptocurrency exchange that I personally use. So definitely sign up for that if you guys are interested. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.